Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. I am Amalgamash, and it's time for another devlog. This time, once again, about Project DeprHaven, Project D. And this time I've taken my NPCs and sprinkled them out into the world, a sort of fake simulated version of the world, because my test bed is where we're performing this test, and I need to put them right back in their little rectangle when we're done. But I've got some UI on the screen, very placeholder. The active quests I've moved over to the right side. However, my window size needs to be different. Oh well, I'll fix that in another test. It's not important. All that's important is that you can see the active quest UI right here. The item and keyword over on the left hand side are not important in this test. I've just taken these NPCs and sprinkled them out so it'll look a little bit more natural, a little bit more like it would in the actual game when there are NPCs out in places rather than all grouped together in their blue rectangle, but I'm going to put them back in their blue rectangle when I'm done. Anyways, I have finished the quest sortation system. It is done, and now you can talk to my lovely NPCs, get your quests. All this is placeholder, like the quest text, the quest people, the wordage of the text, even the placement and font style of the text is placeholder. The thing to take away from here is that it functions, and it functions solid. So you get your main story quest, the active quest, damsel in distress, help the fair maiden with whatever. You can see that the font's a little bit bigger for the title than it is for the description. That's the way I like it. And then you can talk to all of these random NPCs. The guys are the NPCs that fulfill the quest objectives. So actually I need to not talk to them, or rather I need to have different context bits of dialogue for when you do talk to them, even though this is a test. So, but this is the guy I'm supposed to talk to finish my main story quest. I'll add one to your MSQ variable. In other words, you can talk to me to progress the MSQ. He was pretty descriptive. I'm glad I made him descriptive. We can go back to our MSQ lady. She's branched to talk about, making a casual comment. Oh, I sure wish I had my MSQ item. Hey, you have my MSQ item. May I have it? For the uninitiated, MSQ in this context just means main story quest. It's the quest that drives your critical path in your game from front to back. That is, without the inclusion of any side quests, any content unlock quests, any tutorial quests, any job quests. All of that stuff is optional, and the critical path is mandatory, and this is the critical path quest. It is driven by a single variable that simply counts, and it counts up for every step you take in your main story quest. With this variable being checked by all of the relevant NPCs and other events in your game, you'll always make sure that your world reflects the events that are happening in the game. So if we talk to her, we now are given a choice of a yes or no. And again, this placeholder, this box is not going to be way flung over to the right-hand side of the screen. It just happens to be where it is, and I need to work on getting that UI rearranged and in a good place. I'll probably do that like 100 times though, so I'm not going to waste my time doing that in a playtest. But we'll give her the fetched MSQ item. Oh wow, you completed my quest, and now that's complete. Now this system's done, but she doesn't have the event panels necessary to clear the quest off the screen. I still need to add that. I also need to continue a progression of MSQ questing, since that's the one that is going to be growing in the game, unlike all of the side quests. But if you'll ignore this for now, I'm going to talk to the next NPC, and she's going to talk about fetch quest, and then we have our fetch quest text over here. We'll have the HUD event is giving me system messages because I have those in there as event panels to help me with a bug that I was trying to track. But I got the fetch quest item, so if I talk to her again, she should recognize. No, she doesn't recognize. Oh, because I have to talk to this guy. So now I have her fetch quest item. If I find her, she could be on a different map in the actual game. She'll ask for the fetch quest item. I'll give it. This will now go away. Boop, it's gone. Isn't that lovely? It's the small things. It's a small win for me, but it is a win. I'm going to show you what happens when you accept multiple quests. I'll go ahead and accept hers, and I'll accept hers, and I'll accept hers. And I have this system set up on the basis that you'll be able to accept 4 side quests at a time, no more than 4. The entire system would have to be edited from small ways to significant ways if I added the ability to have a 5th or more quest. In another game that I would like to work on in the future, I would like for you to have like 30 side quests that you can queue up and refer to in a book and whatnot. But this is basically the bones that will help me make that later. I have 3 quests now I accepted in this order from top to bottom. And if I talk to to, say, this NPC. He's the guy that's going to give me my bounty quest item. And now I can talk to the bounty quest lady. I think that's the fetch quest lady. This is the bounty quest lady. This will now go away, and these will move up into its spot. So, let's see. Oh, I gotta talk to him until he gives me enough. She wants like 3. That's how that's gonna work. Yes. Now, them's fightin' words is the name of the quest, and the quest description is fight some beast or other, probably. And now that will go away after my system messages go away. It went away. Those 2 moved up. I have a nice blank space here just to kind of represent that I would like to keep the main story quest in a different spot than the side quests. That's done. The test is done. I can go and turn in the objectives for the remaining quests, and then go talk to their associated NPCs, and then you can see that it still works. And in the actual game, with those system messages being removed, it'll happen instantly. You won't see the quest disappear and then everything move up did there. So what I'm going to do is put everybody back they were, and just using Control Z to move them back. Very, very easy, very simple to do. I don't want these items here on my test bed. They were only here to facilitate a more realistic, closer to context, closer to use case test. And now here they are. I have a 6th NPC that I've rigged up to be very bare bones, and she has notes in front of every single event panel. And this is so that I can make an effective event by just copying this NPC and pasting her. And then the notes here actually give me crystal clear instructions on what each of these things do. So I can take this. There's no guesswork ever. There's never any confusion. I should be able to give this event to somebody else, and they should be able to build the event out if I ever acquire another person to help me write events or add events to the game, because this is my perfect NPC, or at least it's going to be when she's done. She's not done quite yet. I do need to add a check that makes sure that the player does not already have 4 quests. So that is kind of part of the system as well. It's something I didn't think about until after I was done. But I'd like to show you very much what this quest NPC's code looks like now, what her event script looks like. So she's got 4 pages, and I went into a little bit of detail on this in the last video and did some naming and whatnot. But this time I've got notes on absolutely everything. So this is really my magnum opus event here. So we have our default behavior. It's at the top of the sheet list because it's getting checked last. The other pages would execute if their switches, or their conditions rather, were true, but they won't be true because this event is going to set those conditions itself. So its default behavior, its dialogue that she has when we talk to her at any point in the game, is going to be this. This is her normal, natural personality. This is herself. So I have my notes here. Enter what the NPC asks you to do. And then here's the display conversation event panel. By default, she just says, I need help. Will you accept my quest? You can fill in the cast graphics here if you want, but they're going to be blank because this is just a template NPC. The next note, enter how the answers should be phrased. And so here's the next event panel. We're phrasing the answers yes or no. We're keeping it very simple. When yes is selected, then this note says enter what the NPC does when you accept. You'll notice that I really try to keep my notes 1 or 2 lines, because any more than that and they are truncated in this little preview, they get cut off. But I found out that it's a lot more fun, it's more rewarding, and it's much easier, more convenient to just do multiple event panels to describe multi-lines of text rather than just do one note and do a bunch of text. Because if you do that, then your text is not going to be visible. You'll have to click on the note, and then there's this really funky behavior with the notes that, like, you could do this. You could type notes and notes for days, right? But there is no scroll bar to indicate how far down this actually goes. So you get 2 lines of text that'll display, and I won't ever write a note that's bigger than 2 lines of text, so you never have to click on the note. You never have to try to scroll down. But if you want to see what it says past this, you've got to click in the box and either drag and scroll down to select the text, which will move the box, or you can use your arrow keys to drive around in this box. But I thought that was interesting, and I thought that was a good way to kind of still be useful and use the note system. Okay, so when you accept the quest, this is the text that the NPC will give you, and then the next note panel says to enter a system message if you desire, which the system message in this case is the text that the game gives you that's like, you accepted a simple quest. You could have more events here too. You could have, of course, like sounds, fanfare, animations playing, whatever. This is the bare minimum after each note. You can name the quest for the HUD that comes in this next one. The quest's name is Simple Quest. The way that this system works is we really have to make sure that we write this name exactly as it is. This is going to be referred to whenever you are finished with this particular quest, and this string is going to get passed around between string variables while the other quests get sorted. So we'll look at that as well. But next you'll describe the quest for the HUD heads up display. That will also go into a variable which will get displayed on the screen, but all you have to worry about is changing the string here. Next, common event is now executed to sort the quest on the HUD, and this event panel is called to sort the quest on the HUD. We could take a look at this. This is my actual common event that does the sortation and display of the events on the screen. They're actually two separate events. Next, a note. Note to be turn on a local switch so that this page doesn't repeat. And that's what we do. We turn on the local switch quest accepted. When no is selected, we simply have a note that says enter what the NPC says when you reject them. And then here is the text for that. So if I were to distribute this NPC and distribute this sort of quest system, which I really want to do that for Bakin and SGB, you can read the notes. You can of course change the notes if you need to, but you don't have to change the note text. You could do that if you want them to be more descriptive, or if you want to change the event itself and add your own notes. But the idea is come in here, read the notes, follow the instructions, get used to setting up your own complex quests, and it shouldn't take you any time at all to start dropping quests in your game. I don't think that it's necessarily a time-consuming process to put a quest in your game, but I do think that it makes you stop and go, what was I supposed to do again? Oh yeah, I've gotta set this variable, and I gotta go make sure that this switch gets turned on so you can't abuse this quest and accept it over and over again. I've done all that work for you. So if I distribute this system, you'll be able to drop this in, follow the instructions, and have quests and quests and quests for days. Next is the quest accepted sheet. This is the sheet that gets ran now, and we completely ignore the first sheet. This will never get ran again. Event switch quest accepted is on. This time, the note just says what the NPC says until you complete the quest. And the only thing they say is, I'm so glad you accepted my quest. I'll be waiting for you to complete it. You can change that to whatever you want. You can add cast graphics here, whatever you want to do. The third page is the one that gets checked before the other ones and will execute if you have the correct conditions met. In this case, we have notes set up here to tell you how to deal with that. Important, set this quest objective in the sheet conditions for this sheet. That is saying if you need there to be something very specific, such as if you want the player to have gotten an item for this NPC, and by default it's always Thieves' Boots, I don't know why. If Thieves' Boots is equal or greater to 1, then the event will go on to check the other conditions if there are any, and then execute command script. And in this case, you have to leave this one alone. Event switch quest accepted must be on, because you have to have accepted quest, right? You could easily remove this, and then you'd never get default behavior. You'd never get the quest accepted text. If you remove this, it'll still work just fine. It'll just act like, I had a quest for you, but actually you've got the item. You've already fulfilled the objectives. Let me have those items or whatever, and finish this surprise. You can finish the quest just by talking to me and giving me the item right now. So that's something you can do. Anyways, you can check for the items or condition that the NPC wanted you to fill, what the NPC says while waiting when you have finished the objective, and that's waiting for quest to completed. This is just flavor text that I like to give my NPCs when you go up to them to frame a context, because you might forget who this is, right? You might accept a quest in a game that has hundreds of quests. Forget these early NPCs, because every time you looked at the description for the quest, you were like, I'll get to it later. Sounds like a pain in the butt. I'm on a different sort of chain of quests right now. Anyway, it happens to me anyway. This is really just me describing myself and like Fantasy Life for Final Fantasy XIV. I'll accept all the quests around me, and I won't turn in the ones that I need to. As soon as I can, I'll level up 10, 20 times. I'll see that I have a level 5 quest, and I only accepted it because I was interested in the lore, and I'm like, But this will help you with that. You'll have some NPC dialogue reminding you of what their deal was And then you'll have dialogue, which precedes the choice to turn in the quest. And I think it's always important to have a choice to turn it in, because let's say you've got like 5 magical leaves, and I know I talked about this in the last devlog, and you can use these magical leaves to permanently increase your stats. It sounds like I'm talking about drugs. Okay, I'm not talking about drugs, but if you have a magic item that can permanently increase your stats, and they're pretty hard to come by, but they're not finite, you could still farm them, but you've got an NPC who's like, I need 3 of them. You might accidentally give that NPC 3 without meaning to, even though you've accepted quests. You just, your goals changed since you accepted that quest, and you'd like to hang on to them or use them for something else first and farm some more for the NPC later. So it's important, in my opinion, for this game, they offer you the choice to turn in this quest after you've filled the objectives. And of course, there's system messages again, display the text, gave the money, enter the NPC reaction. That's a conversation panel. Then we turn on a switch so that this page won't be repeated. And here's the actual turning on of that local switch. And then assign the exact quest name from page 1 to the transfer string. This is a little bit of a convoluted way of clearing out the quests from the HUD. Here's the exact name of the quest I was talking about. And if you don't want to type out the things, you can just copy them. And that's why it mentions that it's from page 1. Paste that here. And then finally, the note will call the common event to clear it from the HUD. The quest transfer string is just taking the simple quest name, and then the HUD is examining the transfer string to see if it's the same as any of the quests that you've accepted, any of the 4 that you have. And if it is the same, it will go and pick it out, and then it will move the other quests up in place. So that's how this works with the quest transfer HUD, quest sortation system. Finally, after the quest is complete, you have post-quest behavior, and you can do whatever you want here, but the event switch L quest completed is on, so this page will always be the one that triggers, and she'll have new default speech that she has now, marked by a note, and it says, thanks again for completing that quest for me. So I just went through most of that in the last video, but fact is I have completed the system now, just about 100% done. Literally the only things left I have to do are make sure that you cannot accept more than 4 quests, and that will keep me from needing to bug test later on. And then I need to actually make a good template NPC for these guys, a version of these guys that will correspond to this quest giver. Somebody who has notes in front of every single event panel. This guy's really, really simple, by the way, and it doesn't need to take the shape of an NPC who gives you items. This could easily be a bunch of dialogue options. You engage with conversation with this guy to try to convince him to give you an item, or fulfill some sort of other objective that you can take back and complete the quest with. This could just as easily be a treasure chest, a hole in the wall, a tree you have to chop down, a stone that you have to mine, a monster that you have to fight. This could be absolutely anything at all. And I guess the more useful thing would be make a bunch of these different NPC forms so that a potential user of this quest system could quickly implement different kinds of quests rather than have to fill in the blanks on every single one. That said, this particular NPC is extremely simple. He just has 2 event sheets, a sheet, and I don't even have them named, which I need to name them, and then he doesn't even have any notes, which I need to add notes. But what he does is he simply displays a conversation saying he's going to give you the equip item. I need to make this a choice for the purposes of testing. He'll increase the item Thieves' Boots by 1. This is, again, the default, and then he'll turn this local switch on, which I need to name the local switch. Now, with the local switch on, the second sheet will trigger before the first one. Next time you talk to him, it'll be the only one that triggers. And this one's checking for 2 different conditions. 1 is the local switch on. 2 is this item that he's giving you greater or equal to 3. I have him giving you Thieves' Boots. I guess I need to check for Thieves' Boots to be greater than 3, not Horn of Beast. But anyways, this won't be true until you've talked to him 3 times. He gives you an item every single time. And then once it's 3, this happens. He says, you've already talked to me. I helped you fulfill the objective of your quest. Now go turn it in. That's all he says now. Now he's just a static NPC. He's not even affected by changes to the quest itself. So if you go turn these in and you come back to him and talk to him, he'll say the same thing. So that's not really something I want to change. I just want to make the dialogue more reflective of how he's done with you in this ordeal. It doesn't really need to recognize the quest has been turned in, because then that would be playing with more variables, and I don't want to have a bunch of variables per quest. But if you do get rid of one of these items that he's given you, then your amount will drop below 3, and then we'll be back to sheet 1, and he'll be giving you that item again, because now both of these conditions are no longer true. Okay, so the next thing I want to look at is this event script, and this has not changed since I think the last time I showed it to you. If I did show it before, it's literally one sheet, it's one event panel, and it's automatically start, repeat, and parallel, and all it is it's just putting the string data on the HUD, on the screen, displaying the text as an image. It takes up image control number 5 because I've got other stuff in slots 0 through 4. But this is where I can change the size of the text and the position of the text that represents the quests. So cool. That's all there is to that one. The actual sortation of the HUD and the quests is done by this common event over here, HUD Quest Order. I'm going to click on that bad boy. It's a no trigger execute from another event, and it gets triggered every time an NPC triggers it. I thought about having this be an automatic start, repeat in parallel. I might still do that. I might make a variation and do that so that there's less event panels for the NPCs, but I'm not sure if that's what I want to do yet. That would kind of involve digging back through the quest system, and I would rather move forward on the project. So anyway, this has notes as well, and this is basically separated into 3 big nested if sections, and all it is. And actually, they get more simple as you go down. So the first of 3 event parts here will check the name and description of the quest you have accepted and display the contents on the screen. Each newly accepted quest will be displayed immediately after any existing to build a proper list with no gaps. Up to 4 side quests can be accepted along with the main story quest. So there's some work I need to do on this. This here has a lot of different lines of text, and I need to separate it into multiple notes so it's easier to read at a glance instead of having to click on it and scroll. Next, this isn't actually checking for the number of side quests that you've accepted. However, it is keeping track. When you don't have anything in the active quest name transfer, it'll overwrite your number of side quests accepted. It shouldn't do that, actually. This shouldn't even be here. But it'll add 1 to that whenever you've got these different quests positioned on your screen. I'm not totally sure if this math needs to happen here. I think it needs to happen at the end of this entire event, but I'll figure that out, and we'll talk about that in another video. The next thing it does is it assigns blanks to the active quest name transfer and description strings so that those can be reused without any sort of worry of having stagnant data left over in them. Then we've got a message that gets displayed. This is part 1 of the HUD event completed. I can delete this now because I had it up here for testing purposes. I had a bug that I was trying to track, and I needed this event to stop itself and show me a message, and I watch the screen for changes, and then when I see the change, depending on what message is up, I'll know exactly where in the event that happened. So that was a pretty neat trick that actually worked, and I'm happy about that, but they don't need to be in the final version of this event. The second section in this event is that it checks for quests that are cleared and removes them from the list by checking the quest complete transfer string. Next, we have the display message that I need to delete by, and the third part of this script will look for any missing quest names and descriptions and immediately replace the contents of that quest name and description slots on screen with those immediately following. A check is ran for each of the 4 available quest slots to move any or all quests up by 1. And this is what I meant when I said that the quest string was going to be passed around between a bunch of different variables, because your quest that you accept, if it's the 4th quest, then first of all, it's getting checked to see if there's something in quest slot 1, 2, and 3. If there's not, or if there is, then it's going to go into quest slot 4. If you complete quest 1, 2, and 3 in that order, then quest slot 4 is going to get transferred to slot 3, then slot 2, then slot 1. And then any quest, of course, that you accept after that or in between that time, those are going to go after that quest in your list, because it'll slowly be moving up in the list and you'll be adding more quests behind it. I really hope that I have a lot of quests in my game to justify the amount of work that went into this. In hindsight, it really wasn't that much work at all. It was just really time consuming, and it was just the initial trying to figure out how it was going to work, because once you start on a system like this, you begin to realize, oh, there's not just one way to do it. I knew there wasn't going to be one way to do it, but there are a lot of ways to do a system like this, and you could very well do one that's way more elegant than what I've pulled off here. here. But anyways, I thought that I would show you the completion of my quest system, and I'll end this devlog with yet another map peek. Every good RPG needs a kitchen and pantry, and this one is going to be a good RPG, so it's no exception. I'm not totally decided on the exact angles that you will be restricted to using for the game. I know that I don't want you to do anything like this. This would be very bad, and I know that I don't want you to exactly go top down. It's lovely top down, but your sprite stays billboarded, so I don't think that looks quite right. It's a Bakin thing, I guess so. We'll probably stick to around this range, but I do want you to be able to move your camera a little bit. And I actually do want you to move your camera left and right just a little bit as well. I really want to restrict those. But we have a lot of things going on here, and for some reason I haven't yet made it to where you can't just like climb on top of the tables and stuff. Oh well, I still have jump enabled, so it's whatever. I'll just jump all over this kitchen. Forget the rules. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this devlog, and stay tuned for a lot more during this Bakin week here on the channel. And more devlogs in the very near future, because now I've got some more stuff to show you already. Alright guys, thanks for watching. See you next time. Have a great rest of your day. Bye for now.